allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. Thank you. Roll call.
Alexander.
Present.
Spitali.
Here.
Venez.
Here.
Kowinski.
Here.
Salinas.
Here.
Tyler.
Here.
Emerson.
Here.
Warple.
Here.
Rakos.
Here. We got 8 present, 1 electronic, 9 here.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Okay, next up, Mayor's address.
Good evening, Council. This is my address for September 23rd. I'm available for questions if you have any afterwards. Start off with my activity log. It's a summary over the last couple weeks. Right after the council meeting, I had a meeting with the president of the Whiting Refinery, Chris Delafranco, in City Hall. We had a really good meeting. Talked about the incident that happened in spring. Talked about the hydrogen plant that they're talking about building, a lot of other issues. He seems like a really great guy, and I thought it was a really good meeting. Met with Hammond Fire Department Local 556, continuing our negotiations. We are at the point where we received the second response from the fire department, and we're responding back to them. I think it's gone very well, though. I just want to say the negotiations between fire, Teamsters, and police has been very professional, like the best I've been involved in. Everybody's making their case, and so I think it's going really well so far. I know I've done a pretty good job, hopefully, of keeping you all in the loop. If you're having any questions, I can fill you in after if you don't mind, so it's not on the record. But I'm willing to talk to anybody about where we are at any time. So worked with the Hammond Police Department on locations of potential migrant unhoused areas within Hammond. This has been interesting last couple weeks because we have a lot of internet news that hasn't been vetted. And sometimes this internet news is not right, believe it or not. And we get sent on wild goose chases going all over the city, finding, potential migrants here and there. I was on the scene with one of the areas we investigated close to 8094, and there was definitely unhoused people living there. I don't think anybody can prove that it's migrants, but there's definitely unhoused people that were living there, okay? And obviously we're paying attention to it now because it's pretty well hidden where that was. I know there was another one off of 169th in Hessville that was also reportedly a group of migrants from Chicago that were living there, and that was being reported widely in the internet news. And upon further investigation, there was unhoused people living there. They were quite comfortable, in fact. They were American unhoused people. I just want to point that out. But the Hammond police have been sent on wild goose chases because of the internet news that's not right. I just want to remind people, internet news is not always right. And unfortunately for the Hammond Police Department, we've been sent on wild goose chases. I've been along with them for most of these, and I can tell you with certainty, I have not seen any unhoused person that's not an American citizen, period. I don't think one Hammond police officer could tell you any differently than that. So when you get this, and I know the council people are getting it just as often as I am, please remind them that there are unhoused people that have always lived in the city. Obviously the weather takes care of that, but we have been on a lot of wild goose chases lately. So Hammond Police monthly captains meeting, we do that monthly, obviously. Lunch with Representative Mike Andrade, discussed the 2024 General Assembly session. Had meeting with our lobbying team and our executive staff in regards to Indiana's 2024 General Assembly session. I had a couple meetings with our data center. We're going to be coming to you shortly, hopefully. We have big things percolating. Data centers talking. We're working with the state on IEDC economic development projects right now. Good stuff. It's going to take council approval. If you have any questions after the meeting, I'm willing to talk one-on-one because I don't want to talk publicly and screw it up. Okay, but we're doing good stuff. Economic development's got big fish they're trying to lure. It's real big. So, economic development team and I have been meeting a lot lately. Gateway Station. I know Councilman Howell, we have a lot of talking to do with you about what the future of that whole area is going to look like. We're starting to like map out, we know the station's coming, what's it gonna look like? Obviously, we want the local district councilman involved, Councilman Mark, I know that's the southern edge of your district as well. Economic development team and I met on 18th Street. There's some things percolating with 18th Street we're working on. I'll need council approval for. Freddie Steakhouse update, Project Wicker update, Memorial Park update. Councilman Berry and I have been talking about a public meeting that we set up at the Philistine Center on October 24th at 6 p.m. to go public with Project Wicker, Memorial Park. I think it's real good what's going on there. Every time we do neighborhood changes, we go to the public. We've been doing it consistently, and obviously we're gonna be consistent with Memorial Parks project as well. So if you wanna see the latest plans on what that entire area will look like, October 24th, 6 p.m. at Philistine Center. Mayor's Night Out in the 5th District was held as well. It was at Jefferson School. It was a solid 2-hour meeting, real good. Met with Hessville Little League President Dan Faulkner and happily appointed him to represent us before the BZA. So I want to congratulate Mr. Faulkner. It was pretty sweet to put him on that. His father was Assistant City Attorney Alan Faulkner for the city of Hammond for a long time, and he represented the BZA. So it's sort of interesting to see his kid go on that board as well. He's a great guy. For those of you that see what he does with Hessville Little League, he's really done a great job as the president of Hessville Little League. So congratulations to Dan for taking that position for your term. And I know you have a resolution before you today, Resolution 24R17. This is the first step in order to create a new City Hall redevelopment area. This is obviously City Hall. This redevelopment area will basically be both sides of Calumet from 165th to 150th. We have a lot of increment coming in this area, new increment, which is gonna help us with our TIF district, and it'll help us redevelop the areas outside of the 2 big projects that are coming into this area. The Swanell expansion, it's gonna give us a good amount of increment. That's already been approved by all of us. It's taking place right now. It's a multi-million-dollar project. It's gonna help us with our increment. And we also have the new U-Haul going over there off of Kenwood. That's gonna help us with our increment. And that increment we get over there, we could use to beautify this area right next to City Hall, this area to the south of us, right next to City Hall. So this is vital. 24R17, passing this is a required step if we want to keep on marching down. Now, we don't have to have a redevelopment area here, and we would still have the Swanell project, and we'd still have the U-Haul project, but we wouldn't have that increment that we could use in this district. So I really hope you guys would consider passing that. And last but not least, I know you guys have been talking about this in caucus before. I've been alluding to it for a long time, the wheel tax. There's a number of communities dozens of communities across Indiana that have already passed this. In 2017, we were approached by the General Assembly and asked to pass the wheel tax. In fact, at that time, they made it conditional. If you wanted, I forgot what grant it was from the state, but if you want this grant, you have to pass the wheel tax. And we didn't do it. And we still got money from that grant because we matched that money with gaming money at the time, okay? So since that time, we've never passed a wheel tax in Hammond. In my brain, it worked as simply as this. We have a gaming boat. The gaming boat's doing well. It's giving us millions of dollars. We use those millions of dollars to do the roads, okay? And we have the CIB, and we have the equation, and the money goes in. What comes out goes to CIB. And when you put $15 million less into that equation, there's $15 million less that comes out. And we've gotten to the point in Hammond now where the amount of maintenance we're doing on our roads is abysmal. This year it'll be about $500,000, and that's not enough. This proposal, if passed by the City Council, will give us $1.5 million a year directed right into CIB with stipulations. Could only be used for roads. Now, state law gives us 3 ways we could use that money. State law says you could use wheel tax money for roads, obviously. You could use wheel tax money for bridges, and you could use wheel tax money for local matches, like federal matches, state matches. We limited it in Hammond to one thing. We're putting it in CIB and using it on roads. So regardless of how well or how poorly Hammond Horseshoe Casino is doing, we'll still have $1.5 million we're doing annually in roads, which is not enough still, but it's better than what we're doing now. And obviously, we'll still be getting some form of gaming revenue. I think this is overdue. We should have probably done it when the state wanted us to. We'd have that much more revenue over the years. We didn't. We've saved all of our taxpayers' money over that time, but at this point, and by the way, this proposal before you doesn't begin until January 1st, 2026. So nobody would pay this for a year. So if you have yet to renew your plates this year, you can renew them one more time before this tax will hit you under this proposal, okay? Along with the ordinance, we attached a packet that basically said we're not alone here. Crown Point already has the same exact fees we proposed. They've had it that way since 2018. They make about $1 million extra a year using that fee. Gary has the exact same fees we propose. Gary makes $1.5 million annually under this fee, which is more than us. And we realized, how could they make more than us from a wheel tax? And we probably have more cars. Well, Gary has more trucks and semis, and it's at the higher rate. That's at a $40 rate. So they make more, even though they're a smaller community, than we will. We're projected to make 1.4, 1.5 million. Portage, basically the exact same fees, a little bit lower on the motorcycles. They make $850,000. Valpo has the same fees. Dyer has the same fees. LaPorte has the same fees. Maryville, not the exact same fees with slight modifications. Munster, same exact fees. This is just close to us. There was a packet I was going to give to you that had all the communities across Indiana, and I didn't think it was important for us here in Northwest Indiana to talk about what Greencastle charges on their wheel tax. But just rest assured, we're one of the few communities that hasn't taken this step at this point, and we need it. I know you guys are talking about doing a public hearing. God bless you if you do. I guarantee you that not one person's going to come in and say you guys are doing a great job in passing this. I'll predict that, but if people want to come in and vent, God bless America. That's what the First Amendment's all about. But this is not lovely. I have to pay this. I have 4 cars I'm going to have to pay this on, and I will, obviously. It's needed. You know, the reason we didn't pass it is because Horseshoe Casino was doing so well, and it's not doing well anymore. And because of that, we're not doing the road work like we need to, and this is vital. So nobody loves paying for extra taxes. I know that, and I'm sorry, but I'm in charge of running the city and making sure it runs properly. And sometimes when you're running a city, you got to do unpopular stuff. And I know some of us do it every time, and I know others take a break, and they're like, they got 5 votes. I don't need to vote on this, but I don't think that's right. I'll just be honest with you. Because when they voted for you to run the city. And this is running the city. Definitely running the city. And sometimes when you run a city, you got to make unpopular decisions like this. But I just need 5 of you, but I have a feeling I already know what the vote's going to be. But I'm just asking you. You were entrusted with running the city of Hammond. And if we have bad roads, you got to do something about that. And we've managed all this time without doing it. And here we are. So that's all I got. That's all I got. I don't know if you have any questions.
Any questions for the mayor?
Mr. President?
Yes, Councilman.
Hi, Councilman.
Hey, Mayor, how's it going?
Good, sir. How you doing?
With regards to the wheel tax, so you said it wouldn't take effect until 2026. I don't see
Yes, sir.
that in the actual ordinance, though.
It's not in the ordinance. It's in the state law, Councilman.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. The state law said if you don't get it done by September 1st, it doesn't take effect until the following year. Okay.
So then residents would actually have 2 years, because like for myself,
Well,
I haven't renewed this year.
It depends on when you renew.
Yeah.
Right.
So I haven't renewed this year, so I have to do so before November or whatever.
Yes, sir.
And so then I'll have this November and next
Yes, sir.
November.
Exactly.
And then
So if you're November, you'll have this November, you'll have next November before you have to pay it. True story. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out.
Anybody else?
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilwoman.
Mr. President. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Question for you. I understand we want to pass this rural tax, but what are we going to do dealing with like our Illinois residents that are here in our city? Are we going to do anything dealing with that where they'll be paying that wheel tax? You know, because I know a lot of the complaints that I've been getting was about the Illinois residents, and we always hear that all the time, and how we're going to step our game up to get them to change over their residency. And then the second question is, I know that you're going to the max of the $25 that the state says versus going towards the minimum and maybe gradually increases. Can you give me some insight on that?
Well, yeah. If we went to the max, it only brought in $1.4 million a year. And quite frankly, that's not enough in itself. And that's the max we could do. So that's what we need. That's why we chose those numbers. Now, the council does have the option to cut that back. Okay, you can cut it back. I know some communities cut it back for motorcycles and stuff like that. That's an option for sure. Okay, but keep in mind, if you cut it back, that cuts back the final number. And the whole purpose, I imagine, of doing this is so that we pave their streets and have nice, smooth streets. So if we do cut it back, God bless you all. You have the right to do that. I get it. But if that's the way we go, then there's less at the end. So, and then the first question, Councilwoman, was about reciprocity, Illinois plates, which is a problem. It was a problem when I took over. It's a problem currently, probably be a problem 50 years from now because we live on the state line. I mean, I'm not making excuses, but I can tell you with certainty that code enforcement and the Hammond Police Department is constantly working on this. And if they knock out 10, 15 more move in. And then they knock out 10 and 15 more move in. And then I get criticized from the council, and rightfully so. We get criticized, all of us get criticized because they're still here. But what I'm saying is, I have a feeling we should, and I get it, Councilwoman. If they're free riders and they're not registering their license in Indiana, they're not gonna pay this tax. That's not fair, I agree. And that's gonna mean that we're always gonna be fighting this fight. And we do. I'm not making excuses, we do. You call up and say, my neighbor's got Illinois plates, I'll go out there. Code enforcement will go out there, we'll follow state law, we'll enforce reciprocity, and then their next door neighbor will have 4 cars with Illinois plates parked right next door. It's a problem. We live on the state line though, I do want to point that out. And there is a difference between what they charge in Illinois and what we charge, and that difference is going to get greater under this scenario, which will encourage even more. I acknowledge, okay? So I appreciate the questions though, Councilwoman. I don't know if they answered your question.
Yes, just to follow up with the reciprocity. So are we also just asking them maybe like with our residents to help with community type policing?
Sure.
In terms of saying, hey, I have a resident that has been living next to me for X amount of time. Or is that something that we're encouraging our residents to do? If you see something, say something type of thing so that we can help with the issue.
Yes, ma'am, totally. We have Hammond 311, that's one of the things you can report. We follow them up constantly. I get this complaint constantly, as I imagine council people get this complaint constantly. I don't want to tell you I'm so jaded we don't follow up reciprocity. If I'm jaded on anything, it's because we'll knock off 10 of them and there'll be 15 more that move in. So that jades me a little, and I imagine the police get the same way, but it's our job, we do it. But I don't want to sit here and say, if you pass the wheel tax, voila, they'll all go away. I would be full of crap if I told you that. This is a problem. It's going to constantly be a problem. Whoever the mayor is going to be constantly fighting this battle because we live on the state line, in my opinion. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I hope it's not coming off that way. I promise you, Councilwoman, or anybody else that calls us, if you give me an address, we're all over it. And we'll do everything we can to get rid of it. And I acknowledge that's an issue in this debate. I acknowledge it.
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilman.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. As you know, I'm really active in Crime Watch.
Yes, ma'am.
And I attend most of the meetings around town. This is precisely why we have our meetings. Residents come, they tell the community policing officer that, my neighbor lives next door, they've been there for 3 years, and they never changed over their plates. That's what we need. Precisely what the councilwoman was saying about encouraging residents to make the call, use 311.
Agree.
But there are avenues out there for us as residents to pursue to help the police department, to help code enforcement, to help. I know we will never eradicate the problem. It will always be there, but certainly to make a difference.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Warble.
Mayor, to go along with what you're saying on this, as far as the reciprocity goes, since we're neighbors, kind of.
What was that, Councilman? I'm sorry.
Since we're neighbors, kind of,
Yes, sir.
there's an apartment complex down the street on 169th and Alcott.
Okay.
And I got a complaint down there 2-3 years ago, and the officer invited me to go with him. And we went down there, and I watched him ticket 13 cars. Mm-hmm. And by the time that people were proving, who they were and all this, one car.
Yeah.
It was one car that wasn't accounted for. The rest were student cars, lease cars, some grandparents watching
Work
kids.
cars, right.
And these people tell me all the time, when it comes to both issues, whether it's reciprocity or you got to do something. My question is, what?
I'll
What
tell you
more can we do, number one? And then number two, I get constantly. Like, I got 3 calls today about the condition of Columbia Avenue by St. John Bosco, by 173rd Street that we share by Hessville Park, and by 169th from Northcott to Indianapolis Boulevard. Now, I do know at one time the Capital Improvements Board had planned on doing all 3 of those streets, but when there's no money, there's no money. And how do you, I mean, what am I supposed to tell the residents?
Agreed.
You know, so.
Well, like, honestly, Councilman, I think that, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I
No, it's
apologize.
okay, I'm done.
I think that the way we decided to go about this back in 2018 or 2017, when the wheel tax was created, was the right thing to do. It's like, why should we tax our residents when our boat's doing $30 million a year and we're doing $15 million a year on the roadway? Why should we tax the residents on top of that? It didn't make sense. Now it's not happening like that anymore. Our boat's less than 20 million a year right now. We were up at 35. It's less than 20 million a year right now and dropping. I don't think it's done dropping. It could go to 0 for all I know. So we got to get ready to make some tough decisions. So, like, if that goes, is there anybody that feels strongly that it's going to keep doing $20 million a year? Because I don't. And if it drops, where does it drop? 10? We still got to do RDA payments. We said, you know, where does it stop dropping? And then, like, if it drops down to 10, we're doing absolutely no road work. You know what I'm saying? This is how communities do road work. It's through the wheel tax. We don't have one. So we were doing very well when the boat was doing well. Boat's not doing well.
Well, just one last thing, Mr. President.
Yes.
I was sitting there when I got a phone call from your office in March of 2020, and the call was, hey, we're shutting the city down, and we have no money
Yep.
as far as paying our bills because the boat shut down. And we all knew that this was coming, and during the middle of that pandemic, there was a storm that wiped out pretty much Hessville and parts of, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd district, and I'll never forget driving in the car down the street and watching them people's furniture float down the street. I think it was not Truman, what was the name of the street? Anyway, I had just had a project for lights put on hold when that storm came. And I got people saying, when am I going to get lights? When am I going to get lights? And as I'm in this car, I'm watching everything people own flow down the street. And I think I said at the time, we got to do something different, because depending on what district you're in and how you spend your money, when one district's getting lights and another district has stuff floating down out of people's houses and basements, I'm sorry, blame me. That's not right.
But we weren't doing it. I don't think we were doing it right, and that's why we changed. But I
That's
appreciate
all I
it.
got on that.
Thanks.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman.
I just want to say that I agree with Councilman Warple, and I think a lot of us probably do. We all have blocks and areas in our district that are in need of repair, and we need to have funds. I agree, this is needed. But Mayor, Mr. Mayor, with that said, I know we've explored other options, and I know that other municipalities as well as the county employs grant writers that secure funds from the state, from the government, and different entities. Is that of interest, or is that?
We
an
do
area
grants
that
all
we
the
can
time,
explore?
Councilman. I don't think hiring a grant writer, I just have a feeling that won't work out, but I'm open to it. What we've been trying to do lately is get people to bring grants to us, like a Structure Point, the firms. They're like, hey, we would like to do this project for you. And we said, hey, if you can find some money for us, we'll let you do that project for us. And they have a lot of grant writers that work for these companies. I'm not dismissing what you're saying, Councilman. We've talked about like contractual basis employing somebody.
Right.
I just don't know if a full-time position's the answer in that regard.
Yeah,
But there's a lot of money out there.
'Cause we
with
know
the,
that, I think county does it that way as well with the contractual.
Yeah.
What they bring in, they receive a percentage
Right.
on that, and that might be worth exploring in conjunction with this wheel tax.
okay.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman.
sorry, just 2 real quick points. Mayor, to your point about the grants, I know that CIB, when I was on CIB, we were applying for grants left and right, and a lot of the projects that we were contributing funds to were matching grants
Yes, sir.
too. So I
And
know
they're
that,
huge
Yeah, I know
matches,
that the
like
engineering department is on top of that. I'm not saying maybe there's more out there, but I know that that department has always been good about exploring those opportunities. The other thing I want to say is that I don't want the public to think that we're just raising taxes to raise taxes and we're not exploring other cost-cutting measures or budget balancing measures. Because I know that Megan in her office and of course you are doing all that you can to figure out other ways to direct more money to street repairs, infrastructure, and other things that we need, and other things that our residents want, lighting, whatever, CIB money for those larger citywide projects. So I just want to mention that so people just don't think that we're not doing that other stuff, we're only raising taxes. This is the balance, and even with all those other measures, we still need to do this on top of that to be able to continue with these infrastructure repairs.
Councilman, I appreciate that. And the budget that Megan and I are working on right now that we're going to turn into you guys shortly is, let's be honest, the police are asking for a 25% pay raise, right? We have, on the books last year, we had 230-something police officers, and they're asking for a 25% pay raise, most expensive department, okay? So the firemen naturally want a 25% pay raise. And then the Teamsters are like, hey, we live in Hammond, actually, and all those other people, they don't live here. We'd like at least half of the 25% pay raise. This is all happening at the same time that, you know, the state of Indiana did a corrupt deal and opened the Hard Rock on the highway. It was a corrupt deal, let's be honest. People are going to jail over it, right? And they do this corrupt deal in Indiana. They fly the governor all over the country. All these people are going to jail. They open this casino, and it's kicking our butt. It is. I knew it was going to. That's why I fought so hard against it, right? And it's here, and it's kicking our butt. So while we're going through the post-pandemic salary requests are going through the roof, our casino is getting annihilated at the same time, and we got to turn in a good budget, Councilman. I agree. It's tough. That's why I get gray hair. Trying to balance all this, it's hard. I agree. But listen, man, we have people in our city that live tight, Councilman, and I know you have great concern for that, just like I do. And I know this is the last thing in the world that they want to hear, okay? But this is a city of 80,000 people, 25,000 residences, 300 square miles of roads, not even counting the alleys. Let's say it's 150 miles of alleys. I mean, that's a big responsibility we have, and I'm just trying to balance it all. Listen, I don't like paying this any more than anybody else, so.
Mr. President, one last thing.
Okay.
Councilman, when you were talking about grants, 169th got repaved this year. 169th got repaved last year, and I think I call it Oxbow Road, was at 179th, and that was all by community crossing grants that the engineering department got for us.
Right.
Other than that, them streets wouldn't have been repaved.
And I understand what Councilman Al was saying also. You know, like, there's more money out there, and those are great, and Councilman Berry is right also. When we have to do a grant on community crossings, it'd be $2.5 million, our local match. $2.5 million almost eats all of the money we have available, so it's just one project, and it's a massive project. So I don't want you all to think we're not doing any road work. We're doing a lot of road work, just drive around. But those are all local matches on huge federal projects. We're not doing a lot of local projects like Councilman Mark and I got elected at the same time. We used to do all local projects. Now hardly any of that's taking place. It's the massive Kennedy Avenue, Homans, Michigan, all the big projects like that are happening, and all of our money gets eaten up on local match, which is why we made sure on the wheel tax money it cannot be used for local match. That's specifically why, because the local match will be more than 1.5. All the wheel tax money would go to a local match. So it would just go like that. So if we focus it all on the streets, I think it's the best way to do it. It'll guarantee that we're doing road work every year. So I appreciate the questions, guys, I really do, because this is not a fun thing. I was sick last night as a dog, and I woke up, went to work this morning, I'm on a lot of Dayquil, and the reason is I didn't want to put my chief of staff up here for this. I didn't think I'd be fair. So I'm up here, I'm taking the heat. This is not fun. But I just want you all to know, I held off as long as I could on this tax, and I think we can't hold off anymore and still do our jobs. I just honestly feel that way. So I appreciate the good questions, and I agree with you. Councilwoman Katrina, I agree with you. I hate reciprocity issues. It's annoying. I pay my taxes. We pay our taxes. Everybody else should, right? So if you give it to us, I promise you we'll fight it. And next, also, I wanted to point out, I'm going to ask Community Police Captain Tom Stravavi to come to the next meeting to talk to you all about what they do on reciprocity, if that will help. He's a great guy. He's a 1st District resident. He's the captain of community policing. He could talk about that issue as well. So, Scott, could you make sure he's here? Captain Stravavi will be here.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Last point, I promise.
Thanks. It's all right, Colin.
To Councilwoman Alexander's point, that was going to be my question. I'm not an expert how reciprocity works, but in terms of fines, if we are adding this wheel tax, maybe we could increase fines in terms of reciprocity laws too.
Good question. I think it's state law, but I'll follow that up. I'm pretty sure it's state law. But the annoying thing about the reciprocity is you can't just like go up and tow them, right? They're like, hey,
Right.
you have to like verify their address. They have like a certain period of time to rectify it. It's a period of like 60 days. That's why I think Captain Stravavu, just to tell you how annoying it is, for one car, the process they have to go through on one car, and there could be an apartment complex with 100 of them. And each car is like a complicated process. And that car could just move right back over to Chicago, you know? So that's why I think it's good to have Captain Stravavu here, who's, everybody knows he's a Hammond resident through and through. He's in charge of this. He takes it personally. So I think him coming to the next meeting will be a good thing for all of us.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, guys. Nice to see you all.
Next up, approval of minutes.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Salinas.
I ask that we accept the minutes from the September 9th meeting and place them on file.
Second. There's a motion and a second by Councilman Emerson. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Next up, approval of claims.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilwoman Vines.
yes, I move for approval of claims, beginning with claims dated September 4th, 2024, and ending with claims dated September 18th, 2024, claim number 7789 through claim number 8241 inclusive. This is a statement from the Controller. We have examined the claims on the Register of Claims consisting of 18 pages, and except for claims not allowed as shown on the register, such claims are hereby allowed in the amount of $10,845,896.55, and any attached journal entries dated this 23rd day of September 2024. I so move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second by Councilman Tyler. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Councilwoman.
I would like to amend claim number 8099 in the amount of $64. It was inadvertently listed for the police department, and it should be for the city clerk's office. I so move.
There's a motion and a second by Councilman Warple to amend claim number 8099 to determine the office was clerk's office,
Clerk.
right?
Correct,
Instead of police department.
correct.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali.
Yes.
Vines.
Yes,
Kalwinski. Salinas.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakels.
Yes. Claim amended passes 9-0. Now, all the amendment, the register of claims as amended. Do we need another motion? Go ahead.
claims as amended.
Yes. We need another motion?
I make a motion, we
Approve the claims as amended?
approve their claims as amended.
Thank you, Councilman Warple. Is there a second?
Second.
Which one he seconded? Councilman Emerson, second. All right. Is there any discussion on claims as amended? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali. Yes. Vines.
Yes,
Kalwinski.
Yes.
Salinas.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
Emerson.
Yes.
Warple.
Yes.
Rakels.
Yes. Claims as amended passes 9-0. Next up, public hearings. We have none today. Communications.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Tyler.
I would like to give condolences to the family of Miss Annie Burns Hicks, who was the first African-American teacher within the school city of Hammond. She passed away, I believe, about a week ago, and her funeral will be this coming up Friday and Saturday. So just want to give heartfelt condolences to her family and thank her once again for all of the contributions that she made to our great city, our school city, and our city overall. A couple years ago, as a council, we recognized her when they changed the name of Maywood Elementary to Annie Burns Hicks. And I know it was a great honor for her and her family. So thank you to the council for being a part of that. And once again, just want to give my condolences to her family and everybody who she touched, because she was a teacher within the school city for decades. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other communications? Any other communications? Any other communications? Communications is closed. Committee reports?
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Emerson.
the Capital Improvement Board met on 9/16/24. Item A, funding allocation number 207, the 2024 street resurfacing Milestone Contractors North in the amount of $447,000 throughout the city. Item B, funding allocation number 208, the ditch clearing on Klein Service Road, Dyer Construction Company, Inc., in the amount of $13,487.32. Item C, funding allocation number 209, investigate the sinkhole and parkway at 730 173rd Street, Jefferson Street side, in the amount of $2,555.13. And that was the Capital Improvement Board.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other committee reports?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yes, Councilwoman.
I'd like to announce the upcoming Community and Crime Watch meetings. Community Watch at Mount Zion Pleasant View Plaza will be Wednesday, October 9th, 1 p.m. East Hammond Pullman Crime Watch will meet Tuesday, October 15th, 6 p.m. at the Ophelia Steen Center. Edison Community Watch will meet Wednesday, October 2nd at Edison School beginning at 6:30. Harrison Park Crime Watch will meet Tuesday, October 1st, 6 p.m. at the VFW on Holman Avenue. Hessville Crime Watch will meet Thursday, October 17th at the Hanson Library. That is on what street, Mr.
Martha Street.
President? Martha Street, Martha and Kennedy. Pardon? Oh, okay, Mr.
2823.
Mailman. 2831 Martha Street. And that will begin at 6 p.m. Irving Community Watch will meet Friday. No, that's not true. Tuesday, October 8th, 9:30 a.m. at Irving School. South Holman Avenue Neighborhood Watch, that is formerly the Indy Illy Crime Watch, will meet Thursday, October 17th, 6:30 p.m. at Trinity Church on 173rd and Holman. Whiting Robertsdale Crime Watch will meet Thursday, October 10th, 6:30 p.m. at Calumet College. Every meeting, I announce the Community and Crime Watch meetings. And just as we were talking earlier, the mayor was discussing earlier, if you can't go to Mayor's Night Out to ask a question, these venues are the perfect place for you to ask questions about what's going on in your neighborhood. You'll be updated about what's going on in your neighborhood. If you have a problem with neighbors who have not gotten their Indiana plates, this is a place that you can tell our community affairs officers, and they will follow up. Because after all, community is not just about me, it's about us. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Vines. Any other committee reports? Any other committee reports? Committee reports is closed. Ordinance third reading, final passage, we have none tonight. Next up, number 10, introduction of ordinances.
Item A, ordinance 24-19, sponsored by Councilman Warple and Spitali. An ordinance of the City of Hammond adopting a municipal vehicle excise tax and a concurrent wheel tax pursuant to Indiana Code.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Warple.
I move for passage on first and second reading. With the committee hearing, as council as a whole, and I'll bring this up in new and unfinished business. Our next meeting has to be rescheduled from Monday to Tuesday because of Columbus Day, so it'll be 5/15. I'm sorry, 10/15, meaning October 10th, 15,
At 5 p.m.
at 5 p.m., and I'll set a public hearing for that night.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is second by Councilman Spitali. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander. Alexander. Spitali. Yes. Vines. Yes. Darwin Spitali. Yes. Vines. Salinas. Yes. Tarowinski. Yes. Emerson. Yes. Salinas. Yes. Taylor. Yes. Emerson. Mississippi Warple. Yes. Rakos. Yes.
I'm sorry, yes, my AirPod died.
Passes 8.
I'm sorry, yes, my AirPod died.
Okay. So we got a yes as well? All right. Yes is 9-0. And that is 5 o'clock committee hearing, correct? Okay, thank you.
President Rakos, that concludes the introduction of ordinances. Item A,
Thank you,
resolution
Clerk Golick. Next up, resolutions.
24-17, sponsored by Councilman Tyler. A resolution of the Common Council of the City of Hammond, Indiana, approving Plan Commission Resolution 2024-01 as a written order and finding of fact, approving Redevelopment Commission Resolution number 2024-11 as an amending declaratory resolution that established, designated, and approved the East Hammond Urban Renewal Area and the Urban Renewal Area Plan for the East Hammond Urban Renewal Area, Indiana R-91, to modify the boundary description.
Mr. President,
Councilman Tyler.
I move for passage of Resolution 24R-17.
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Salinas. Any discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman.
the mayor touched on this a little bit, but this is the third step in a three-step process to make a change to an urban renewal area, confirming the Plan Commission's determination of the adjustments. The next step is a confirmatory resolution from the Redevelopment Commission. And basically what this is a portion of the East Hammond Urban Renewal Area is being removed and being included in a new redevelopment area called the City Hall Redevelopment Area, which will aid in current and future commercial development opportunities.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I don't know if anybody from redevelopment or Mr. Poland would like to add anything? Ann, Brian, no? Okay.
You did good. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
Alexander.
Yes.
Spitali. Yes. Vines.
Yes.
Kowinski.
Yes.
Salinas,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Emerson,
Yes.
Warple,
Yes.
Rakos.
Yes. 24R17 passes 9-0.
President Rakos, that concludes the reading of the resolutions.
Thank you, Clerk Golick. New and unfinished business.
Mr. President,
Yes, Councilman Warple.
due to Columbus Day, I make a motion that the meeting scheduled for October 14th be rescheduled to October 15th at 6 o'clock,
Second.
with caucus at 5.
Second.
The motion is second. Caucus will be at 5:30, and committee meeting will be at 5 o'clock. October 15th will be the next meeting. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Any other new and unfinished business?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I should have mentioned this under communications, but I want to, and my mind just went blank on the name of Lone Pine. I want to thank Lone Pine for cleaning up Harrison Park. I know we've been talking about this for a while, but Harrison Park, of course, is the next park, in my vision, to be redeveloped within the 3rd District. And right now, we're working on a 3 to 4 phase plan that'll probably take place over the next 5 to 6 years, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how we're able to generate revenue to support that project. But a few years ago, we turned off the water source for the pond because the pond was flooding every single time we had a major rain, which felt like almost every other month. And in doing so, the pond is now in pretty bad condition. And so we had the pond cleaned out, the trees were pulled up, and so it is looking much better now. And I've been told by the contractor for the first phase of the pond improvements that it'll take place early to late spring, so somewhere in the early second quarter of 2025. And like I said, that'll be the first phase, is cleaning up the pond, expanding the pond's footprint so that it's more connected to what it looked like historically, a little bit larger than what it is, deeper. We're going to line the pond, and then like Councilman Warple has in Dowling Park, we're hopeful that we will be able to stock it so that people will be able to fish in Harrison Park Pond within the next year or so. So excited about that. We will be having a public meeting once all the plans are finalized to release every single phase so people understand what those plans are and can weigh in on all of those phases coming up too. So hopefully we'll be able to have that meeting before the end of this year. So if you are interested in the development of Harrison Park, please be on the lookout for that information, as I should be releasing it hopefully within the next month or so. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes.
just to buttress what he said, Lone Pine has had the management now for 8 years at Dowling Park. When they approached me on it, this guy is great. He does the bacteria readings, water clearness, sustainability of fish, and his first time out there, he said we were lucky there were any fish in that pond. And I said, go for it, do what you got to do. The last 2 years in a row, a state record fish has come out of that pond. I'm drawing a blank on what the fish was, but he sent me a text the other day, and 2 state record, I want to say bluegill maybe, I don't know. But the last 2 years in a row, 2 state record fish have come out of that pond. So Stacy does a great job. And I know when you drive over there, that water is crystal clear.
Very good. Stacy from Lone Pine also works on the Ridgewood Townhome Pond over there too. When I found out he was working there, he does a good job. Any other new and unfinished business? Any other new and unfinished business? Any new and unfinished business? New and unfinished business is closed. Next up, we have public expression. Each member is given 3 minutes. We ask that you give your name and your location. And we'll start with Joan Schmidt.
Good evening, I'm Joan Schmidt. I have a pass out. Can I give that? It's just a paper
Somebody else
pass out.
picked it up from you.
I don't know if you're going to have to share it. While she's passing those out, I'm just going to start. So I'm here to represent the Northwest Indiana rugby team, and they play at Riverside Park, and they've been playing there for quite some time. So page 1 is their logo. Page 2 is a photo of the Banshees, which is the women's rugby team. And, you know, the founder was Circuit Court Judge Mrs. McDermott, which is, you know, and she's a Hall of Famer, just a little side note. So the situation, and then the page 3 is a picture of the youth program, which we're starting to get the youth involved with rugby. They've been playing, they just celebrated last December 50 years of rugby in Northwest Indiana, so that's, you know, quite an accomplishment. Page 4 is the lights. So the team has purchased lights that they want to use. They practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 8:30. In the summertime, it's fine. In the spring, it's dark early, and in the fall, it's dark. And we are on the understanding that it's the lights out at 8 o'clock. So they just want to use it for a half hour. The lights face from east to west, so it's just on the field. It's not on the home, so it won't involve that. They break them down and roll them back and store them. And I think that they've spent about $25,000 on the lights. But they can't see if they, you know, like now it's dark. So they'd like to get permission to use those, you know, and they will turn them on at 6 because they can't stop practice and roll them out. They'll turn them on at 6 and then they will provide light till 8:30. They close down at 8:30. And in closing, the match days are on Saturdays, so it won't be like there's a lot of people in the evening. They're just practicing. And if you'd like to come and be a spectator, we'd love to have you. But so we thought we'd come here and ask permission. So.
Thank you. Ken Rosick.
Good evening, Council.
Ken, you can go to that one.
Good evening, Council. I know how you can save $3 million right now. Get rid of the Boondoggle Bridge, the most expensive and least effective option by far. At Mayor's Night Out last week, TJ started talking about emergency response time and how it would increase because of the city's option. Halfway through his explanation, the city cut him off. He said, "You're done. Sit down, bud." Very disrespectful. Why? Because he knew TJ was right, and he does not want the citizens to hear the truth. He's not interested in the safety of the residents. If someone dies because the police show up a minute or two late, then the people who made this decision makes the city liable. At Mayor's Night Out, Councilman Rakos said the solution on Grand Avenue would cause a traffic jam. He suggests putting the bridge in a place where it's not going to be used as much would be much better. I think you want to put it where the need is the greatest. That is why the FRA recommended Grand Avenue, but Councilman Rakos knows better than the experts. The fact is, people already use Grand Avenue because that's where 3 public schools are. The only time that there's a problem is when a train comes. Now that's a traffic jam made up of parents, students, and teachers who have no place to go. He doesn't want it there because he lives off Grand, a selfish reason. Councilman Rakos also said hundreds of homes would have to come down. This was at Mayor's Night Out. When moments before, the city engineer said only between 6 and 9 would have to come down. What is said by the members of the council, especially in public office, reflects the entire common council. This is the same guy who said only 10% of the dunes would be destroyed. Wrong, it's 38%, just in phase 1. He said all the school children would have an easy route because there is an off-ramp to the bridge. Easy for him to say at the time because nobody had seen the plans. Now we know there is no off-ramp. Their bridge does nothing for the students. So that was wrong. Now we have a common council that is a one-stop shop for misdirection, misinformation, and yes, mendacity.
Thank you, Ken. Next up, Jose Galvin, I think.
Evening. Jose Galvan, and I'm going to start with quality of life. I'm here to ask the used car lot task force to please look outside the licensed property and take current community officer opinions in regards to the cars that they find all over residential property without tax. These cars belong to some of these car lot business. They run out of parking in their lot, and then they bring their junk to the community. Some of these car lot owners or family members are not even located in the city of Hammond, Indiana, but store these damaged cars in residential property. Some car lots paint cars in the same lot. Is it legal? And if it is, how do we make sure that the air next to residential property is clean? Also, find a way to communicate with Indianapolis Dealers Division. This is very important. They printing paper tags and using dealer plates to avoid citation from code enforcement or the community officer. So if you get a hold of the Indianapolis Dealers Division, they'll tell you the rules of printing a paper plate and the rules of using a dealer plate. Then you will find that these car lot owners, family members, are driving vehicles without even registering. So when it comes to the tax wheel, that is money right there that you can find. I mean, I'm just trying to. And just one example, for instance, everybody wants to make money, create profit, and be productive, but this is not. If you look around, Councilman Ricos, I believe, Warple. A few meetings ago, you found out a lot with a whole bunch of cars, right? It might have been a car lot that stored their vehicles over there. So, you see, this is a huge issue. If you go on Eaton and Columbia, somebody is fixing cars on the building, and all the cars that they fix, they're right outside right now. You can see them, and they even for sale, some of them. 2200 block of Summer Street, outside on the street, with the sign that says no parking, they're right there without tax, and they're fixing them. So it's something to think about, trying to clean up the city and bring some quality of life around the neighborhood. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Next up, George Stoya.
George Story, Robertsdale. I believe what the gentleman was talking about, the wheel tax legislation covers abandoned vehicles. If you can trace an owner anyway, you can still tax them on it. Just saying, something to look into. I didn't buy the mayor's position on the futility, I guess, for want of a better term, of going after people from Illinois and the registration problem. You know, he set up those cameras, and it deterred a lot of people from committing crimes here in Hammond, not knowing knowing that they could not get away as easy. I would think that not only that, these violations seem to be flagrant, and I don't know. You know, he was willing to go to get chummy with Ed Soliday and get him to pass some legislation to enable a restaurant tax, a food and beverage tax. Why couldn't he go to Ed Soliday and say, hey, craft me something and so I can go after these guys, that I can streamline some of this in the way perhaps that I believe Kevin and these guys have streamlined, you guys, obviously you enacted it, I hope you did. You streamlined the ordinances so that people that don't cut their lawns and stuff like that, the lien process and all that stuff, that your protocols have been accelerated on that. And so I don't know, you know, just because it isn't easy money, I mean, I just don't understand it. He's willing to spend, who knows, tens of thousands of dollars, maybe more, on that Voters' Rights Act litigation that this council has done nothing about. And he hasn't the authority to do it. And he's wondering, oh, we ain't got any money, we ain't got any money. Well, yeah, he's shooting craps up there in the courts. I don't know what you guys are doing. I wrote a memo. You got a lawyer, let him look at it. I haven't heard anything from anybody. That's a sound memo. Well, if it's not accurate, fine. But I haven't heard one iota of discussion here. And at Mayor's Night Out the other day, he said that he's expecting a decision that's going to come down at the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. And when it does, my guess is it's going to be a loser. And if it does, he's going to want to appeal it to the High Court. Guess what? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching down in Indianapolis. You want to look after you want to find some more money? Get a little more discipline around here. You guys are the fiscal body. Do your job.
Thank you, George. Next up, Jenna, A.
Good evening, Council. My name is Jenna. So, at Mayor's Night Out last week, it became very clear to me that the mayor convinced many people, and possibly even himself, that he's doing the right things for the city. I could understand how a resident who has trust in their government to take his word for it. Perhaps they do not recognize the inconsistencies that have been exposed. I'm here to remind everyone of some of those inconsistencies. At Mayor's Night Out in January 2023, it was said by Dean Button that a Grand Avenue solution would easily take out 50 homes. A few months later, at the INDOT public hearing in April 2023, it was revealed by Nick Bada, the project design lead, that there would be 9 residential relocations, not 50. The same thing happened when it came to construction costs. At Mayor's Night Out in January 2023, Mayor McDermott said the bridge was better than an overpass on Grand Avenue because of cost. Dean Button then said an underpass on Grand Avenue would easily cost twice the amount as a bridge. Nick Bada revealed at the INDOT public hearing that the Grand Avenue solution would be $8 million, while the bridge would be $11 million, which means the Grand Avenue solution is at least $3 million cheaper. Through a FOIA request, Ken uncovered a plan to put 68 lots and 2 residential buildings into those woods. Of course, the residents were not informed on this. And perhaps the most crucial inconsistency that must be exposed to the public is the fact that it doesn't solve the safety issues regarding trains, as it'll take students 2 miles out of their way to school. The purpose of Governor's Parkway Bridge was to service the children, and unfortunately, it fails to do just that. It is very clear that there is a lack of transparency in the city. The reality is, the world is changing, and the truth will not stop being exposed. That's because people are tired. People are tired of being fed lies and propaganda just for it to benefit those currently in power. They are tired of being manipulated by those who say they are doing the right thing when in reality, they are not. The truth will always come out in the end, and I believe that is what's happening here. So I ask you, are these disingenuous actions what you would like to support? It is clear there is a choice we're all being called to make. Will you decide to be truthful, or will you decide to lie? The choice is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna. Next up, Andrea Centers.
Good evening, council people. It's the first time I've ever been here, but upon, learning and working with the people that have been trying to diligently preserve and keep the dunes from being wiped out has been a great concern for all of those in that area. And in doing so, not only would you be homing and displacing all of the animals that live there, some of them are rare animals to begin with that could become extinct if you just tore those woods down. I myself personally enjoy walking my dogs through the woods, and I see ample amounts of people utilizing that area for their own quality of life improvement, myself included, as I have disabilities that don't allow me to go far, but to be able to go 2 blocks and walk through the woods with my dogs or my friends and just sit down by the lake and have conversations or whatever, all of those things would be no longer available to myself as well as many others for that kind of quality of life. And I also think it should be, like, I was looking at this being Natural Historic Month or coming up, that should actually be considered historical land, as it's been there for thousands and thousands of years since Lake Michigan had receded from that. And clearing those woods out also is the highest, I believe, parcel of land by Kennett, our 169th Avenue, where I live. And when we had that, I don't know if it was 7 inches of rain in 7 minutes, or if it was a sewage backup, whatever it was, I could not get any assistance through the town or through my homeowner's insurance or even the NIPSCO thing that said that they would help from any needs from the sidewalk to the street, putting a valve in there, which they did not do. So that brings to my mind a question for me is, like, if you clear those woods and displace all those animals, what would absorb all that water and what would prevent it from coming down north, which was the way it was traveling? And would that mean that we would have to not only pay more taxes, but get homeowners flood insurance as well? That doesn't fit into my budget, but my budget's probably not nearly as high as yours. And I would like that to be considered. And that's all.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn. Motion and second, all in favor?